Hey YouTube, Netlord80 here again. I just wanted to cover the second topic that I wanted to go over in my video series. That is on gay rights, which the term is fairly inaccurate given the overall scope of the issue. But some of the issues that are pretty prevalent are, the same-sex marriage is a big one. Why this is such a huge deal, and even on the liberal side, people can't seem to take a firm stand on it. Overall, I think people are just afraid to face their own opinions and even have the courage to stand up for what they believe in anymore, which is an entirely different topic. But the simple fact of the matter is there are a number of arguments being made why it is a bad thing. Not a single one of them holds water. Two people loving each other, this doesn't harm anyone. It doesn't diminish anybody else's rights. It doesn't devalue a heterosexual marriage by any stretch of the imaginations. I would challenge anyone that thinks that it does. How? Give me a specific reason how this would devalue your relationships. How does it even impact you at all? These are the things that people really need to think about, and they don't. They don't think their arguments through. If done properly, I'll put it that way, same-sex marriage will not lead to people marrying their dogs or, a million other different variations that people have come up with over time. I will say that the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court decision does, however, lead into that simply because of the way it was written. Its wording is extremely vague, and it only makes reference to alternative lifestyles, which is a very broad statement that could be used to justify these other things. Like I said, though, however, if done properly, it doesn't have to be that way. You just say two adults and be done with it. Then there's also the issue of adoption, which I touched on in my last video in this series. Specifically, there are all these children out there that need homes, loving, stable home lives. And what is wrong with, just because it's two men, all of a sudden it's wrong? Why? Are they incapable of love? Or two women, I just use two men as an example. But whether it's two men or two women or a man and a woman, it doesn't really matter. It's still two adult figureheads to help raise the child. It doesn't necessarily have to be a man and a woman. That's just saying that that particular viewpoint is the only correct one, and that is extremely arrogant. It's basically saying that you're better than everybody else. You know better than anybody else. Your opinion matters more than someone else's. And again, that's not right. And that, again, touches on my equality statements that I made in the introduction to this series. So I am, to be more specific, I am for, gay adoption, for lack of a better term. There's also a number of issues involving discrimination against homosexuals and bisexuals that's out there. It sucks, but it is still there. I don't believe that's right, and I think it should be punished fairly harshly. Not just oh, well, you shouldn't do that. No, freaking nail their ass to the wall. I mean, that's, it should not be legal for someone to base employment decisions based on anything other than job performance, experience, and skill. To a point, I can kind of see in the culture thing, like whether or not they fit into the group. That's a fairly vague thing, and it's a little tough to nail down, so I don't really focus on that one too much. There's a lot of gray area in that one. But overall, they did just pass legislation through the Congress saying that you can't do that. I forget the exact name of it. I've got it online somewhere. I might post it on text or something. But I mean, that's one of the other issues of the day. I would go into hate crimes, but hate crime legislation is actually going to be another video in this series, so I'm not going to get into that one really. But again, I mean, as long as the responsibilities and expectations are equal, I have no problem with just about anything. It's just the issue here is that you got a group of people that are legitimately being repressed in a lot of ways, and that's just wrong. Now, I don't particularly agree with courts making laws. Again, that's yet another video in this series. But, I do agree with the fact that, same-sex couples should be able to marry and have all the same protections. I also, by that token, I don't believe that churches that disagree with it should be forced to accept it. Now, if a pastor or priest is enlightened enough to realize that's okay, then by all means, I have no problem with that. That's fine. But I don't believe you should go into churches and say, you can't say this, or you can't do this. If a church wants to preach, the very strict, word for word interpretation of the Bible, that's their business. I say, just let them do their own thing. Don't go after them for hate speech just because they're preaching what they believe. Again, hate speech comes under the hate crimes thing, and that's another discussion entirely. But I do believe that they should be allowed to have their own beliefs and exercise those beliefs just as anybody else does. You can't say, well, you can practice these beliefs, but you can't. It's not equitable. And again, the whole equality thing comes back into it. I say live and let live. Tolerate our differences. Don't attack one another. Don't let these differences divide us. I mean, that's why we will fail. Our society will fall if we keep being so divided. But I think I've pretty much covered the topic fairly well. Keep an eye out for more videos. They are coming. See you later, guys. Bye.